The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. That's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah, good morning, you guys. It is Friday, October 24th. Today is National, Dr. Mark, you're going to love this. It's National Pharmacy Buyer Day.
Right.
Shout out to people. Yeah, shout out to people who buy drugs in bulk.
I picked up my prescription today.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I figured you'd like that one, Jesse. I figured you would.
Wholesalers for the win.
Mm-hmm. It's also National Bologna Day.
You're full of baloney.
Yeah.
Users lose drugs.
Oh, man.
That's right.
So you're saying everyone that walks into a pharmacy is a loser? That's kind of mean.
Well, they're gaining. They're not losing, bro. They're
a user. Only users lose drugs.
Yeah, they're users, so they're going to be losing them later.
Well, yeah, they would. Okay, all right. I see where you guys are going with that. Okay, all right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. You know what I mean? Well, it is also today is also National Food Day. Today.
Food Day.
Yeah, I think we all like food.
Okay. Every day is National Food Day.
I think we can all get behind that. You know, National Food Day.
I like good food.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Dr. Mark, that's the thing with food. You know, like cannabis. You know what I mean? But like, there's so many people that like bad cannabis too. You know, so it's like, what are you gonna do? People are still gonna eat McDonald's. So. Anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And man, oh man, do I have a humdinger of a story for you today, you guys, because LA's staggering cannabis problem could cost the city $400 million. That's right. The legal cannabis market in Los Angeles is hitting a breaking point, and at least 2/3 of LA's weed businesses have failed to pay their local taxes. And the city is currently out hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue. The dire financial status of the city's cannabis stores, with more than 500 out of LA's 738 pot companies owing outstanding taxes, has forced the city to take the extreme step of proposing an amnesty program to bail out the industry, according to a city letter obtained by SF Gate. The LA Office of Finance is recommending that the city waive all tax penalties for cannabis companies in exchange for the businesses repaying their tax debts under payment plans, according to an October 2nd letter signed by Diana Manigugulu, the city's treasurer, and sent to LA City Council. Manigugulu said the program was necessary because of the extremely challenging business environment. In a quote, she says, Due to widespread non-compliance with tax and permit regulations, feeding a thriving black market combined with a tax burden which vastly exceeds the rates paid by other industries, legally permitted cannabis businesses face a daunting task, Magalugu wrote in the letter. The city's cannabis companies currently owe the city $400 million in outstanding taxes, with 48 businesses individually owing more than $2 million. The city has previously run tax amnesty programs for businesses citywide, but this would be the first time a program is offered to a specific industry, according to the letter. The office estimates that even if the amnesty program is offered, it will only help to recoup about $30 million in tax revenue, meaning $370 million is likely already lost. The letter estimates that $150 million of the $400 million in owed taxes is connected to companies that are already out of business and tied to tax bills that are too old to collect. The hundreds of millions of dollars in missing tax revenue are sorely needed, and LA has been navigating a $1 billion budget shortfall for this fiscal year, although Mayor Karen Bass worked out a deal this summer that her office said closed the budget gap. The LA cannabis market, which is the largest in the state, has been struggling for years, and the city has failed to shut down a thriving illicit market, which has attracted customers to tax-free products, while legal shops are saddled with high taxes and regulatory costs. The overall tax rate for cannabis in LA exceeds 40% and includes a 10% local tax, one of the highest local taxes in the state. LA's regulatory framework forced some business owners to spend over $1 million on permitting and rent before they could even open for business. And cannabis industry advocates have long argued that the high tax rates businesses face are having an unintended effect of actually reducing the amount of tax revenue that governments can collect, as they are so high that they force businesses into failure. Statewide, total cannabis sales are falling as operators owe $1.3 billion in back taxes to the state, according to a 2024 state report. And Hirsch Jane, an attorney and cannabis consultant based in LA, told SF Gate that the letter was the first time the city has admitted the depth of the problem facing legal cannabis operators. He said regulators have instead been ignoring these criticisms for years and saying they're not true. Well, that's what the Democrats do. But, I'm not going to go into that. In an additional quote, Hirsch says, "I have never seen them get into his level of detail in admitting the scope of the problem. It's part of them coming to grips and admitting that there is a problem," Jane said. It's almost like they're alcoholics, right? And they just now figured it out. But nonetheless, the LA Department of Cannabis Regulation has not previously returned multiple SF Gate requests for data on back taxes, and Jen Marroquin, a spokesperson for the department, said in a statement sent after publication that the office does not have a hand in taxes, and directed questions to the Office of Finance. In a quote, "DCR does not participate in matters of taxation, as we neither receive tax revenue nor play a role in setting tax policy. We recognize the significant financial challenges faced by cannabis operators and remain committed to supporting a fair, equitable, and sustainable industry within the scope of our authority," Marroquin said. Hirsch said the amnesty program letter amounts to a public admission that the city policies are poorly designed and set up to fail. "The policy framework is totally unworkable. Obviously, businesses will fail. But when it's of that magnitude, it suggests that something is wrong conceptually," Hirsch said. At the outset of cannabis legalization, LA prioritized giving licenses to people harmed by the war on drugs, including low-income residents and people of color, meaning that a large portion of tax-owning businesses come from these marginalized groups. Today, many of these social equity license holders are now holding millions of dollars in debt and may not even have a functioning business to show for it. LA isn't the only city facing failed cannabis companies and unpaid pot taxes. The border city of Calexico recently revoked several pot licenses over failure to pay taxes, while the city of Port Hueneme is considering a plan to revoke about 1/3 of its pot shop permits over a failure to pay city fees. But, oh, man, LA, now this is such a big problem because, one of the biggest parts of the LA regulation is that if you don't pay your city taxes at the end of the year, they don't renew your license. So now, what are these people going to do? And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this, especially Jenny Beth, because she dabbles in this whole compliance thing with these people. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this conundrum, Jenny Beth.
Well, the first thing that I want to point out, Jason, and I'm surprised that I have to point this out, but your LA cannabis taxes have to be paid on a monthly basis. It's 2% on gross paid monthly. So it wouldn't be a pay at the end of the year. It's a monthly thing, due before the end of the next month, either by mail or cash payment in person with an appointment at the LA City Office of Finance. 2% on gross is a lot for an already overtaxed business. So, yeah.
Right. It's crazy.
But it sounds like, Jenny Beth, they're letting this build up, right? They're not paying it monthly, and then a year goes by. Or some amount of time where it builds up to this $400 million bill that's due from 700 different companies.
I mean, I guess they're just not paying it, but if you're not paying it, that's a problem because it's an LA Cannabis monthly business tax renewal. So you have to renew it on a monthly basis. If you're not paying your taxes, I mean, I've had clients who just didn't pay their taxes, and I got there and they were like, oh, wait, we have to pay taxes to the city of LA. I'm like, you sure do. And it's kind of, I don't know.
I can't believe people
aren't paying.
Get out of here. That's so crazy.
And they have been doing renewals without the LA tax being paid, right? So they haven't used at the DCR or DCC level tax payments or tax arrears as a basis to deny an application or to deny a renewal application.
I think due to this situation, I think all the operators that have been paying taxes, maybe like 50 shops in all of Los Angeles, I think they should immediately stop paying all taxes going forward and just totally boycott them.
I mean, it's not just taxes on shops. Like any cannabis company in LA has to pay this tax.
I think we should have a total boycott on all taxes in LA.
Okay, so Jenny, if I hear what you're saying correctly, if there is a grow operation in LA and then they sell to a distributor in LA and then that distributor delivers to a dispensary in LA, all three of them are getting this 2% tax?
2% on gross, yep.
Wow. Yeah. I am just not a fan of this type of sales tax in general. I think that making businesses be tax collectors is a really weird thing to do to businesses in general. California is clearly like the best at doing that. So, and LA in particular, they're just stacking taxes on taxes because there's state taxes. I'm sure there's county stuff going on too. And then on top of it, you have the city. So everybody's trying to dip into the cannabis fund, and nobody realizes that cannabis is the cheapest it's ever been in California, maybe the cheapest it's ever been in the world.
Yep.
And so taxing $150 pounds that are going out to be, $5 eighths or whatever it is, it's just crazy. There's no margin for that, and you're eating into a margin that doesn't exist, and these people need a break.
They do this in alcohol and tobacco. Do they tax the supply chain?
Yes, but there's different structures for it, and it's not as alcohol is way cheaper to make. I mean, you can get a gallon of food grade ethanol for 50 cents.
Yeah, a little bit of nothing.
And make some White Claws out of it. You know what I mean? So the costs of doing business are way lower. You're not selling $150 pounds that cost you $300 to grow.
No, I mean, I get retail tax. I get everything we buy.
Even that's high. Even that is high. That's a 10% tax.
You're asking if they tax the distributor.
So that's just my point. So the retail tax is not going to go away anytime soon. Taxing transactions along the supply chain as though it were retail is bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least with the CDTFA, you can, as a distributor, if I sell to another distributor product that's for resale, or I sell it to someone who is going to resell it, I can add that in when I'm doing my quarterly filings and say, hey, this much we sold, whatever in revenue, this much revenue went to another reseller. And that's why we have to collect reseller certificates from people before we transact with them. And they will counter that off, right? So you don't have as much liability on every step of the supply chain. It's not just getting taxed until the end. But with the LA City Office of Finance, they tax everything, any kind of transactions that are happening. And if you transact within the city of LA, right? So like if you come down from another place and you sell to someone in the city of LA, you should technically be filing in LA City. Filing.
I mean, what are they going to do, Jenny Beth? I mean, because they're not going to be able to close everybody. And if they close everybody, then the whole system collapses.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to close everybody. And then, honestly, like at this point, LA City of Finance is so shitty with the way that they run this tax program. Like I've had multiple businesses where they've sent letters asking for filings that have already been filed and paid. So they have no record. There's no way to log in and say, hey, let me see my LA City tax history. So I have to keep different folders in my computer for every files in the filing cabinet to make sure that I have printouts of every receipt, because if they ask it and you don't have it, then you're gonna end up paying it twice.
What?
Well, that's enough on that.
What a conundrum.
LA is on fire in more ways than one.
Yeah, LA got the fire and they are on fire, and you know what I mean? Oh, man. Man. On that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back. You guys, man, I have some good news for you guys. I think you guys will think this is good news. Dr. Mark, there's been a systematic review and it finds that CBD shows promise against lung cancer, but human trials are lacking. That's right. A systemic review published by the peer-reviewed journal Cancer Cell International details growing evidence that the Cannabidiol, the CBD, may have anti-cancer effects against lung cancer, but human trials are lacking. That's right. Research from Garrosh University of Medical Sciences reviewed 19 studies conducted between 2007 and 2025 that examined CBD in relation to non-small cell lung cancer, better known as NSCLC, which accounts for about 85% of all lung cancer cases and remains one of the world's deadliest malignancies. Of the studies included, 13 were conducted in laboratory cell models, 4 in animals, and only 2 were clinical case reports involving patients. Across these studies, CBD consistently demonstrated the ability to kill cancer cells and slow disease progression. Mechanisms identified included apoptosis induction through mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress, and PPAR-Y activation. CBD also inhibited epilethal to mesenchymal transmission, better known as EMT, and a key driver of metastasis, while down-regulating invasive markers such as N-cadherin and vimentin. Immune effects were also observed with CBD boosting CD8 plus T cells and natural killer cell activity while reducing tumor-reduced suppression. Importantly, CBD showed systemic or synergistic effects when combined with conventional therapies. Studies reported that CBD increased tumor sensitivity to cisplatin, and radiotherapy enhanced drug uptake, and in some cases helped overcome treatment resistance. These findings suggest that CBD may be particularly valuable as an adjunct to existing cancer regimens rather than as a standalone therapy. Human data, however, remain sparse, and the 2 clinical case reports cited described tumor regression following prolonged self-administration of CBD oil at doses between 200 and 600 milligrams daily. But the lack of controls makes the findings anecdotal, and researchers caution that these outcomes cannot be generalized without rigorous clinical testing. The review concludes that CBD holds promise as an adjunct in lung cancer therapy, addressing key cancer hallmarks such as tumor growth, metastasis, and treatment resistance. But stresses that the current evidence base remains overwhelmingly preclinical, with human data restricted to 2 uncontrolled case reports. The authors caution that the absence of randomized controlled trials, the variability in dosing strategies, and unresolved safety concerns, including drug-to-drug interactions and long-term tolerability, underscore the preliminary nature of CBD's clinical promise. Researchers say, looking forward, several research priorities must be addressed, including large-scale clinical trials to validate efficiency, establish optimal dosing regimens, and evaluate long-term safety, and pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic studies to clarify bioavailability, tissue penetration, and interactions with chemotherapeutics, and patient satisfaction approaches to determine which molecular or immunological subgroups may derive the greatest benefit, and regulatory harmonization to facilitate international trials and clinical adoption. You guys, well, look at that. This is good news for lung cancer and smokers, and maybe this does just kind of prove a little bit that, smoking cannabis isn't necessarily going to give you lung cancer like they all propagandists want to sit and say. I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this.
This isn't a long line of studies that have shown that cannabis smoke is actually beneficial towards your lungs, which seems counterintuitive.
Exactly.
So smoke weed, keep your lungs clean.
That's right. You think it's because you cough and that way it just kind of acts like a lung cleaner? You just get all this stuff out, you know what I mean?
No, the cannabis oils, from what I understand, and I'm sure Dr. Mark can chime in on this even better, but from what I understand, cannabis oils, the oils and resins that come from the cannabis plant, that even through smoke inhalation, they're just bioavailable. And so your body's able to move those oils around. Whereas the tars, for instance, from cigarette smoke and even other smokes like pine smoke from a wood fire or things like that, they're very difficult for your body to move around. So they get stuck in your lungs and create problems. Whereas cannabis smoke doesn't. It's those oils settle in your lungs and your body's like, oh, we can use these. We can move these around. We can do things with these. So that's the main difference as far as I understand it.
Interesting. What do you got to say, Dr. Mark?
Well, let's see. So you did good with the long words, Jason.
All right, good. I'm always striving for that, Dr. Mark.
Yeah. So pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, right? We'll give everyone a little lesson on that. So pharmacokinetics is how a drug substance moves through your body and is metabolized. So there's different aspects about how it's absorbed and how it's distributed and how it's metabolized, and that has to do with, again, what's called the pharmacokinetic profile. Pharmacodynamics has to do with its interaction with the molecular targets, the binding sites, like if you're trying to target something for CB1 binding. CBD, as it turns out, is what's called a weak allosteric inhibitor. So it acts not on the active pocket that THC binds to. It acts on another pocket to attenuate the action of THC at the receptor. So I think the point of this study was, could we use CBD to act as an adjuvant or in addition to chemotherapeutics like cisplatin? So cisplatin is used in chemotherapy, and there's other very, very toxic chemicals in chemotherapy. And what you're trying chemotherapy is to knock out the cancer cells while reducing the collateral damage to healthy cells that aren't cancer infected. And the ideal cancer therapy would be something that specifically targets process that happens in cancer infected cells that aren't happening in other cells. But we know that, again, cannabinoids help patients that are in chemotherapy. I'm sure if Dr. T was here, he would agree that, THC, whole cannabis extracts like THC, which will help reduce the lack of appetite that you typically get. When you get chemotherapy, you don't feel like eating anything. You just feel like throwing everything up. And certainly like controlling that gag reflex.
Yep.
Controlling nausea is something that helps. And you don't need a huge dose of THC to have it impact reducing nausea. Most chemotherapy will induce nausea. You just get sick to your stomach because you're basically poisoning your body, and you're hoping that the cancer cells die and the other cells don't. But what we now know about the endocannabinoid system and compounds like CBD that act on the endocannabinoid system help maintain homeostasis in the body. And homeostasis is, again, to basically keep the body healthy by regulating all the other systems in your body. And so your circulatory system, your central nervous system, your endocrine system, all your systems are centrally regulated by the endocannabinoid or endocannabinoid-like system. So you would think, again, just intake of cannabinoids in general and cannabis in general, and like I think Jesse was referring to whole cannabis oils being ready for your body to consume. So the one thing, Jesse, is that if you look at the tars that are formed when you burn tobacco, there's a lot of nitrogen-containing compounds in there that when they're incinerated, like when you smoke cigarettes or when you smoke tobacco, that turn into highly cancerous-causing compounds. So amines, which are in tobacco smoke that are not in cannabis smoke, and when they're burned, they form things like nitroso compounds and nitroxides, and these are very, very toxic compounds. So it's no stretch of the imagination that consumption of tobacco smoke will eventually cause cancer. Cannabis smoke is very, very different than tobacco smoke altogether. And while smoking anything, again, is not probably the preferred way of doctors would prefer that people, deliver cannabis, it is a very effective way of getting cannabinoids into our bloodstream because the smoking heat decarboxylates the cannabinoid acids and makes them pass through the blood-brain barrier. So the other thing you always have to consider is that whenever you're talking about adding CBD or adding cannabis to a regimen of very potent anti-cancer drugs, is that cannabis and the cannabinoids in cannabis affects the metabolism of those drugs in the liver, and it may not act to the patient's benefit. And I think it could be a crapshoot. In some cases, that could maybe lower the effective dose of the anti-cancer drug. I hope that's kind of like the spirit of this publication, which is that we can lower the amount of chemotherapeutic agents by also co-administering with cannabis. Again, there's a lot of things that can happen there, so they have to make sure that studies that they're doing basically shows efficacy and safety. But yeah, this is kind of exciting. I went to this summit last week. Can you see this? You read that?
Yep. Cannabinoid and endocannabinoid drug development summit.
Yeah, and so at this summit, there were several companies, a lot of companies from overseas. This company from the UK, so Melissa Sturgis, who's the chief executive officer of Ananda Pharma. What Ananda Pharma is interested in doing is, because Epidiolex, which contains CBD, has already been approved for human consumption. Like we've talked about this a bunch at 9, right?
Yep.
So like the patient who goes into Dr. T's office today, who's got epilepsy, Dr. T could say, well, we should put you on a prescription of Epidiolex, or what Dr. T is probably more likely to do, which is to say, take this CBD tincture, which is the same active ingredient. Well, what Ananda is doing is they're saying, what can we leverage off the fact that GW has already got CBD approved in Epidiolex? Maybe there's other conditions. And so that's exactly what Ananda is doing. Ananda is interested in treating women's health disorders, in particular endometriosis, which I learned a lot about last week at this summit. But the notion is that they can piggyback off of the safety data that was generated for Epidiolex to say, okay, here's doses of CBD that's safe in patients. Now, is it efficacious? And again, lowering the amount of chemotherapeutic agents that are added when patients are on chemotherapy. So I think that's the point of this paper. And I say bring it. I'm sure Dr. T would be in full support of this too, because we know that chemotherapeutic agents are basically super, super toxic. So anything we can do to dial down the amount of chemotherapeutic agents that are still effective at removing the cancer, I think is an advance.
What do you think on this, Jenny?
I don't have a lot on that. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, I do want to send a shout out since we're talking about cancer and whatnot. My buddy just started a new company called No Cis, and it is a new way for women to get mammograms without the squeeze. They basically lay down on this formulated table and lay down, and you know what I'm saying, and then there's a little camera down below that circles around and gives them a full mammogram, so then that way they don't have to experience any discomfort or, you know what I'm saying, any violation or anything else like that. And so shout out to No Cis, and it's they have this in like this trailer, and it's going to be in parking lots all throughout Orange County in the next in the coming months and whatnot. And I think that's going to be a big trend in helping to stop breast cancer. So shout out to them. And on that, we are going to roll right in to Dr. Mark Scialdone, who happens to be at the great university of none other than the Archangel Michael himself. That's right. It is none other than Dr. Mark Scialdone.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Dr. Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. All good, baby.
There we go.
Yes.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jason, for the wonderful intro.
Yes.
Hope everyone's having a great week. It's a beautiful week up here in Vermont. Actually, we're a little cloudy today, but the trees are soaking up all that rain that we're getting, and it seems like the colors are super brilliant.
Yeah.
So, get outside this weekend if you can. I am. So today, my story comes from the Chattanooga Times Free Press, and I'm just mooring Hawaii now. We're going to talk about our favorite issue, which is the THCa loophole, supposedly. So lots of love, Hawaii. One of these days, me and Hawaii are going to get together. We're going to hang out. In fact, maybe someday I'll actually get to Hawaii and we can do a High at 9 news on Friday.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
Hawaii. Well, I promise if we could get that in the cards, we'll do that. So today, my story again comes from the Chattanooga Times Free Press. It's entitled Tennessee Ban in THCa Products Delayed Until July 2026. Well, right away, Hawaii is going to love that, right? Any delay in banning THCa is a good thing. And it's interesting. The graphic that they show is they show these bags of weed. It looks like a bag of weed to me, from Snapdragon Hemp, and the strains are Super Boof. Okay, Jason, how do you like that strain?
Yeah, it's Boof.
Another strain is Oreos with a Z, right? And then there's Kush Mint. So I don't know about you guys, but that stuff doesn't look like industrial hemp to me. It looks like weed. Okay, so anyway, a ban on Tennessee's most popular hemp products will be delayed at least 6 months through the end of June 2026, a state board decided on Thursday. That's to let current hemp licenses expire before a new regulatory body steps in to oversee Tennessee's industries, officials said. It's a huge win, Kelly Hess, the executive director of Tennessee's Grower Coalition, said by phone after the ruling. It only gives everybody 6 months, but any time is a win. Any extension is a win, so we're happy. I agree. I think it's a win because you can't just pull out the rug from these people who have, again, invested a lot of time and opportunity, again, exploiting this so-called loophole that we've talked about a lot. Really, there is no loophole, but anyway. Okay, so Tennessee alcohol regulators now oversee the state hemp's business. You know, we've seen that model happen in a lot of states. Oregon, right? OLLC, the people who regulate beer and wine in the state, get in to basically manage the cannabis business or hemp business in the state, and it always comes unwound. So it's good that these alcohol regulators can go back to something that they know about, which is regulating alcohol. That law also changed how hemp products are tested, effectively outlawing smokable hemp and vapes with THCa, which produce a high similar to marijuana. Oh, hello, folks. It's marijuana. Similar to marijuana. Okay, so that said, their law enforcement powers would start on January 1st, causing a concern with many hemp growers and retailers who say the soon-to-be banned products make up the majority of their revenue. Well, of course it does. That's what the people want, right? Active hemp licenses issued before December 31st, 2025, previously were overseen by the state agriculture department, which in effect will end at the end of June. So any hemp licenses issued after that will be regulated under the alcohol regulator rules. So I guess I got it backwards. I guess it's the agricultural people down in hemp who are regulating hemp industry down in Tennessee, and they're going to switch over to the alcohol regulators, which we've seen this happen in other states. Doesn't always work out so well. So on Thursday, the Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission delayed some of its enforcement, including the ban on THCa products, at least until those licenses are up. They will remain under the old regulation until those licenses expires, Aaron Rummage, spokesperson for the commission, said by phone. Hess said the delay also gives advocates like the Growers Coalition another shot at getting a hemp-friendly laws passed during the next year state legislative session. Most advocates have given up on getting THCa law back on lawmakers' good sides, as said, but there are other items on the industry's wish list that would be that could get another look when legislators return in January, including adjusting a new tax structure some businesses have called too burdensome and addressing with direct-to-consumer sales. Well, that goes along of the previous story, right? We don't want to start taxing everything along that supply chain. It's going to really diminish profits along the way. So that was a huge part of the market. There's a lot of people who want to see this change, according to Hess. Tennessee Healthy Alternatives Association filed a request for the delay in July, according to the association. The commission signed and agreed to a declaratory act order on Thursday. That was released on Thursday. This agreement provides critical clarity and stability for Tennessee's hemp industry during this regulatory transition, Association President Sam Oshlin said in a statement. Our members can continue operating under existing regulatory framework that they have known and have invested in. We consider this outcome to be a significant win. The Alcohol Commission will start some regulatory duties in January, as said, overseeing age limits and non-compliant products for retail. they're finding a lot of stuff that's highly non-compliant. And people are selling to people under 21, has said. So they're really going to have to be cracking down. Alcohol regulators are preparing to force hiring 20 new agents across the state with 5 administrators, Rummage said. Well, yeah, maybe that's the one thing that, again, the Alcohol Regulatory Commission knows how to put a age restriction on sale of alcohol. So maybe they could use some of those same tools to put an age restriction on. But that's the story from today. It's the same thing. Again, maybe it's a good thing that they're pushing this back, because it sounds like, again, there's a lot of businesses that were sort of planning and operating under the current set of regulations, and certainly changing that overnight, kind of like what Gavin Newsom did in California, could be severely disruptive to the industry. But again, maybe there's an opportunity to somehow use this approach to get better legislation passed by the Tennessee legislator to maybe protect this opportunity, and maybe think about, again, how we can think about a one-plant solution, right? I think Hawaii and I are both in agreement that this is all one plant, and it should be regulated as one plant. Sure, where there's businesses that exist in a state where there's regulatory cannabis and now hemp comes, these two things kind of butt heads. Maybe in a state like Tennessee, which I think is all just hemp, maybe this could be a one plant solution. And I'd be interested in what my other correspondents say. Have a great weekend. Hopefully cannabis is in your plan this weekend. We're going to go see that Bruce Springsteen movie. And yes, we will be under the influence of cannabis.
Yes. Oh, man. And shout out to OG Grandma 420, who's sent in a super chat, who says, free the weed, hashtag deschedule or bust. And so I'm not mad at it. This is great news for Tennessee and everyone that's smoking that good old THCa, because we know it's all THCa at the end of the day. Man, they're just gonna keep on kicking the can on down the road. I'm totally with that. You know what I mean? I think this is fantastic news for everybody in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think it's good news, but I think, again, this also needs to somehow figure out how we can harmonize.
They already have Dr. Mark. They just need to leave it alone.
Yeah, well,
they already got a good thing going.
In states like California. So how does a state like California, which is
California's already a lost cause, Dr. Mark. We don't even need to worry about California. As a matter of fact, I think probably the best thing that could happen to California is Joe Rogan's suggestion yesterday, as he said after Trump finishes his term, he said President Trump should come and run for governor of California and come fix all the problems here. That would be the best thing for California right there.
Well, again, Jason, I think we're all on the same page that people want access to high quality.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Wouldn't it be great if we actually called the industrial hemp sector like where you're growing for fiber, seed, and oil, and not for cannabis production, or not for cannabinoid production, right? So not type 3 variety cannabis. Type 3 variety cannabis is what we're talking about. This is
the thing. This is how I view it, Dr. Mark. And I kind of view it like, I guess I would call it the oil industry. Okay? There's all kinds of different grades of oil that get refined and produced into a whole multitude of products, everything from your plastic water bottle to high-end jet fuel, right? And all in between. And so hemp is really, in essence, that same thing, because it's all cannabis. It can be a high-grade cannabis, like a A1 jet fuel.
Let's call it, it's cannabis. Yeah. There is
exactly. It's all cannabis sativa L under the Controlled Substances Act. Right. So whether or not you're going to make clothing with it, which happens with oil also, you know what I mean? That happens with oil too. And so, or whether you are, buying something to smoke, which I guess you could conflate that with putting gas in your tank. You know what I mean? Because that is being decarboxylated, you know what I mean, in that sense. And so no matter what, but there's a whole host, whether you're going to be tar for the road, or clothes on your back or a plastic bottle or any of that. Hemp can do all of these same miraculous things. And so it's all this.
You can't make plastic from hemp. That's a misconception.
I don't know. I think you can. You can make paper.
No, you can't. No, you can't. What people are doing is they're adding hemp fiber as a filler, hemp hurd, into conventional plastics that are still derived from petrochemicals. It is economically not viable to convert hemp into plastic, period.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to consume more energy than the material is worth. Because, again, a throwaway plastic bottle or like a pill bottle like this, people just throw away, single-use kind of thing. But the thing is what hemp is a source of cellulose. Cellulose is paper, right? Not plastic.
Okay.
Right? Completely different thing. So now, that's not saying that you can't harvest hemp and make paper out of it. You can, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, plastics, conventional plastics as we know them, are derived from petroleum.
Interesting.
It cannot be derived from hemp. The people who are trying to say, oh, well, Henry Ford made a car completely out of hemp. Well, yeah, he made the car, but how much did that car cost? So if you're going to take seed oil, you could get the seed oil from hemp. And you could take that seed oil and you could do a chemical process called cross-linking. And when you cross-link, you end up making resins that you could turn into coatings and paint.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make a paint out of, and you can make glue and like polymers out of hemp seed. But the world doesn't need more plastic from hemp seed. Right? Look at all the plastic floating around in the ocean. What the world needs from hemp seed is more food to feed more people, because there's less arable acres of land to grow that food. And like I've said here on High at 9, protein per acre, hemp seed beats soybean. So if you could replace all the acres on earth that are being grown with soybean, and guess what? Who owns soybean? Large industrial ag, which have chemical companies genetically engineering soybean seeds to be resistant to their chemicals.
Well,
and
just to add on that too, Dr. Mark, the USDA needs to get in line and allow hemp to be a food for cattle, for cattle and things like that, and then that would help out a lot. I know a lot of hemp farmers that want to be able to sell their stuff and feed different livestock variations, you know what I'm saying, with hemp and whatnot, but they are unable to do that because then that meat will not be able to be sold for human consumption, and so we need to fix that as soon as possible.
I don't know that that's necessarily true.
That's 100% true. It's 100% true. I've done some research.
Livestock feed?
Yep.
Yeah,
so there
that's
is now
definitely
commercial
good
livestock feed. We've talked about this before. It's commercial livestock feed that is hemp seed derived. Period.
But that's hemp seed derived. That is China-based hemp seed. That is not the same thing as people feeding their
product that I see comes from Canada. It doesn't come from China. But whatever.
Dr. Mark, I want to ask you to explore the nuance. You got very emphatic about no plastics, but isn't cellulose cellophane considered a plastic?
Okay,
can't you make plastics from cellulose?
So cellophane is so what cellophane is you take cellulose and you treat it, you make what's called a xanthate ester, and then you have to use solutions, so solutions of organic solvent, cast films. And yes, you can make films like celluloid films, cellulose acetate, and dacron and rayon, which were again just chemically modified celluloses.
Mm-hmm.
Those are old materials that have a huge carbon footprint because you need a lot of solvent to dissolve that stuff to make those films. And while you can make those films from cellulose, Jesse, those films don't have the moldable plastics that we need in like cell phones and like this little stopwatch that I have here.
Mm-hmm.
So you see these these plastics go into a thing and they melt,
Right.
and they're able to melt process those. You cannot melt process things like cellophane and cellulose because they
just
thermally
burns.
degrade.
Yeah.
They thermally just degrade.
Yeah.
So in order to make these types of plastics that I'm hitting right here, you need basically petrochemicals. That's the only way to do it. Sorry. And maybe you could use this from recycled plastic that you can get from the ocean. Now, I know that there's a company that's making cannabis containers. I'm taking plastic out of the ocean. They melt it all down and they turn it into basically a feedstock that they could basically make cannabis containers out of. But I think, again, Jesse, the notion is that, again, you cannot do it economically. Now, it can be done, but there's so much more higher value to the hemp seed oil than turning it into plastic. Plastic, single-use plastic, you use it once, you throw it away, right? This thing's going to sit on my desk for a while, so it's a single use, but guess what? When the thing doesn't work anymore, it probably ends up in the trash. But the point is I think that hemp does have its place to replace things like you probably get boxes like this. All this this brown paper here is called craft paper, which is basically just ground up trees. The newsprint and other paper, all that can be derived from hemp. But I think the driver, economically, the driver is not to create fiber and hemp. The economic driver is food, to feed people. It's more valuable to feed people than to turn hemp seed oil into some fucking biodiesel that's going to push your truck down the road. You could accomplish that with batteries. The other thing, this is off topic on cannabis, but let me just inject this. I met a fellow a couple weeks ago who works at one of 6 cold fusion plants that are being built here in the United States. You know, cold fusion was demonstrated at the laboratory scale, but now there are companies who are making power plants based on cold fusion. This is unlimited energy, folks, that has no greenhouse gas emission in the energy generating process. I mean, certainly there's a lot of greenhouse gases that are generated in building these plants because you need a lot of cars and, you know, people in traffic waiting to get to their jobs and everything. So it does burn greenhouse gases. But what I'm telling you is that there are now commercial operations that are going to take cold fusion, basically make environmentally friendly forms of electricity that can go into batteries and push Teslas and other battery-powered cars down the road. There's a company here in Vermont that's a company called Beta. They're about to go public and hit. So they have a battery-powered airplane that can go through the sky. There are other companies that are working on battery-powered for ships across the ocean. So if we could wean ourselves from being a petroleum-based economy, it's a huge step in the right direction environmentally, and it's been demonstrated, and there are a lot of skeptics like me who never thought that we'd see this in our lifetime. I talked to a guy and he's like, yeah, we're going to be online in 5 years. 5 years, they're going to be generating power in the Boston metropolitan area based on cold fusion. Super exciting stuff.
Interesting.
Anyway, sorry.
And I just wanted to, because you know I'm the regulations girl.
Go for it.
In the U.S., the FDA must authorize hemp for animal feed, and currently only specific hemp seed products are approved for certain species. So they are approved, Jason. There are approved hemp.
Specific.
Yes.
That's not. Yeah, that's not all. Yeah. So your average hemp farmer. That's my point. Your average hemp farmer can't be selling his hemp that he's grown as feed for animals. That's my point.
You just moved the goalpost, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Everybody knows there are hemp products that are livestock feed. Dr. Mark was correct.
It all comes from China and Canada.
Yeah, but
actually, it's not going to come from Canada anymore.
But there's government funding that's looking at these things to back this with science, to show that you could feed livestock, hemp flour, and it's not going to make people stone when they make chicken nuggets.
Oh yeah, of course.
So, yeah, there's research going on. I mean, let's see where this field goes in the next 5 or dozen years, right? I think it's going to be really super exciting to see hemp and industrial cannabis or industrial hemp, whatever you want to call it, find its way into food, feed, cosmetics, and all kinds of different things.
I love this. I love this. Any final thoughts before we move on, you guys? All right, see you now. We're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
Oh, and we're back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Vermont's not in the chat.
We haven't seen Vermont Alternative
and
for
we
a while.
are back, you guys. Stop. Oh, we are going to roll right in to Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Barney Design Co. that can help take your brand to the highest plateau and tell you exactly what your brand is trying to communicate to your buyers. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I thought of you, Dr. Mark, when I found this article this morning out of Marijuana Moment. More Americans now use marijuana than smoke cigarettes, new study shows. More Americans now use marijuana than smoke cigarettes amid shifting perceptions of harm of the two substances, according to a new study. Researchers at the State University of New York, SUNY, and the University of Kentucky provided what they called the most comprehensive analysis of trends in adults who use only cannabis, only tobacco, or both from 2015 to 2023, revealing a consistent decline in cigarette smoking as marijuana consumption rises. From 2021 to 2023, data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, NSDUH, NSDUH, showed that the rate of people who reported using only cannabis in the past 30 days rose sharply from 7.2% to 10.6% overtaking cigarette-only use, which declined during that period. Cannabis-only use increased from 3.9% to 6.5% in 2015 to 2019, which was and it was 7.1% in 2020, and increased again from 7.9 to 10.6% in 2023 to 2021 to 2023. So we went from 3.9% in 2015 to 10.6%. That's a huge rise in less than 10 years. Cigarette-only use decreased from 15% to 12% in 2015 to 2019, was 10.3% in 2020, and declined again from 10.8% to 8.8% in 2021 to 2023. Co-use was relatively stable across different periods. Writing in the Journal of Addictive Behaviors, the researchers said that the evolving trends in the use of two substances could be evident of a substitution effect amid changing harm perceptions, evolving legislation, and shifting norms. The rising cannabis-only use across groups parallels the expanding state-level recreational cannabis legalization, increasing accessibility and normalization, the paper says. Conversely, continued declines in cigarette-only use align with the decades of tobacco control efforts and evolving norms surrounding smoking. The relatively stable co-use trends may reflect substitution dynamics whereby some individuals replace cigarettes with cannabis, preventing co-use from rising in tandem with cannabis-only use. Other researchers have also separately observed a similar trend where cannabis is increasingly used as an alcohol substitute. Cigarette-only use was most prevalent among socioeconomically disadvantaged adults with lower education, income, or lacking insurance, the study found, whereas cannabis-only use predominated among more socioeconomically advantaged groups, college-educated, high-income, and privately insured. While prior studies have concluded that marijuana smoke exposure is not equally or more dangerous to health than tobacco smoking, we covered that earlier, the authors of the new paper suggested that the surge in cannabis use as tobacco use wanes represents a worrisome trend amongst adults. Okay, guys. Without timely policy response, cannabis may become the next public health crisis, they cautioned. These people need to get educated. Cannabis-only use and co-use trends pose public health risks akin to cigarettes, necessitating targeted prevention campaigns, the paper says. A multi-pronged strategy of public health education, early detection, and effective treatment development is vital to prevent cannabis from becoming the next public health crisis. Dun, dun, dun. U.S. cannabis legislation is rapidly evolving. While declining cigarette use is encouraging, rising cannabis use is concerning, the researchers argued. Although emerging evidence suggests potential therapeutic applications of cannabis, pain management, opioid detoxification, and tapering, considerable risks exist, with heterogeneous effects by administration mode, potency, use frequency, and intensity and population. It should be noted that data on cannabis use in the study included all forms of consumption from smokable flower and vaping concentrates to edibles and tinctures. By contrast, the data on cigarettes excluded those who vaped nicotine. I'm glad they brought that up. I was gonna bring that up myself because I wondered right away, are they counting people who are vaping nicotine as the switch? Because I think there might be a huge reduction in cigarette smoking and a surge in vaping. The study involved an unweighted sample size of 42,000 to 46,000 participants for each time period, with the exception of 2020 when there was a smaller sample of 27,000 amid pandemic-related complications. Increasing adults' cannabis use alongside declining cigarettes use highlights evolving substance use patterns, warranting monitoring and targeted prevention, treatment, and policy efforts, the study concluded. To the author's point about shifting perceptions of harm, a recent survey found that on the list of activities that Americans say is dangerous for pregnant women to engage in, using marijuana falls below drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes. Consistent with the latest study, survey data from Gallup that was released late last year found that 15% of U.S. adults reported that they smoke cannabis, which is more than the 11% who told the polling firm that they have smoked any cigarettes in the past week. A separate Gallup poll at the beginning of last year similarly found that significantly more Americans said they smoke marijuana than cigarettes, with young people being more than 5 times more likely to consume cannabis compared to tobacco. Well, this is great news across the board. As we've covered many times, and we covered this morning, smoking cannabis or consuming cannabis is definitely better than tobacco. So this is great news across the board. I do wonder if this study is tainted since they didn't include vaping nicotine or also nicotine pouches, as there's an increase in products like Zins and Alps. And a huge increase in vaping nicotine. I think that might also make up for the decline in cigarette use and still kind of maintain that there is a lot of nicotine and tobacco use, just not in the same old smoking form. So they didn't include that. I wonder if that would taint the study. And if they did include that, would they show that maybe there's still actually an increase in use of nicotine overall? Because it seems to me, and maybe it's just marketing stuff that's out there, but it seems to me that a lot of people are using Zins and Alps and pouches of those kinds of things, and also a lot of vaping going on. I know when I worked a restaurant job recently, everyone vaped nicotine and no one smoked cigarettes. And traditionally, if you worked at a restaurant, I remember one of my first jobs, everyone smoked cigarettes. So that has definitely shifted, and I think that's kind of the case nationwide. So I'm interested to hear what everybody else thinks. But I think there's probably not as much of a change in nicotine use overall, but it is good that people aren't smoking. I'm not sure that it's great that they're vaping nicotine. That might even be worse.
You know, the fact, but I don't think that the story is disingenuous, or the study is disingenuous, Jesse, because the study is talking about people smoking. The study isn't people are consuming less nicotine. You know what I mean? It's clearly,
that was weird because they said that they were talking about cannabis use overall, so they were juxtaposing.
Yeah, they're just
edibles,
referring to smoking,
vaping, dabs, smoking weed, all of those together versus smoking cigarettes, which is a weird juxtaposition to make when there's so many other form factors now of consuming nicotine.
I don't think that's a weird thing because they're trying to say that cannabis consumption is up overall while smoking of tobacco is down. And so that to me makes sense, and that's to me, I think if they would have worded it like that, then maybe that would have made a little more, been a little more
right. But that's the point: is consumption of cannabis overall, meaning all methods of consuming cannabis.
Yeah, but what's the matter with that?
Versus smoking.
But I mean, come on, Jesse.
Because there's more methods of consuming nicotine than just smoking.
But there's just as many methods of consuming nicotine as there are of cannabis, except for edibles. That's the only variable.
And they didn't compare those exactly.
Well, that's because
my point is that I think consumption of nicotine is probably up. And just as consumption of cannabis is also up, but smoking is down. But we see that even in cannabis, like
but with tobacco, Jesse, you're either vaping it or you're smoking it. There isn't, or you have a chew. Yeah, you have a chew. You know what I mean? Other than that, there's no pouches. I guess you could call a pouch an edible then. I guess in that sense.
That's pretty much what it is.
Okay, all right, okay. I guess you could call it pouch an edible.
You're ingesting it through your saliva and through your lip, so it's you're absorbing it through.
Mm-hmm.
And there's patches too. There's other ways of consuming nicotine, and people are doing that a lot. I know this because my oldest son and his friends, they love Zins, and they love all the teenagers that I know. And I don't approve of this, but I can't stop them either.
Yeah.
They vape and they take Zins.
Yeah.
They love Zins and they love vapes.
People love their
And
vapes. It's crazy.
They smoke a little bit, but they smoke like for fun. Like a cigarette is like a novelty item to them.
Yeah.
And they will smoke, but 9 times out of 10, they're either vaping or they're getting Zins. And that's almost across the board. So that it's a weird juxtaposition to make and say that smoking is down. Okay, smoking is down.
Yeah.
But is that also because pouch use and vaping is way up?
But at the same time, I think this is trying to say it from a health perspective is that overall this is good news, because I'm going to say probably vaping tobacco is probably better for you than actually smoking tobacco, even though
I highly doubt that vaping vegetable glycerin is better for you than smoking.
Well, and there's also another category, Jesse, of part of the study that's not there, is the fact that if you're a tobacco smoker, you are in essence killing off your customer base over time by them consuming your product over and over again, where cannabis does not do that. And so therefore it should be going down as popularity in tobacco smoking is dying out at the same time, literally at the same rate as its customer base.
I think this is just a flawed study. I mean, Dr. Mark, what do you think? Do you think that that's a flaw in the study, that they're missing the vaping and the pouches and the chew as a part of this nicotine consumption versus overall cannabis consumption, and comparing those things?
Yeah, because like you point out, there's different ways to consume, but consider this for a second.
All right.
Delivered orally, a toxic dose that would kill the average size human is about 60 milligrams of nicotine. Imagine if 60 milligrams of THC was the toxicity level. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's several orders of magnitude higher. So there's so much difference in the inherent safety of tobacco versus cannabis, let alone combustion or not. You know, even if you consume cannabis without ever combusting it, right? But when you add in all of the other shit that the tobacco companies add to create the addictive lure of tobacco, I mean, I've said it before on High at 9 News. Keep smoking, tobacco smokers, because billion-dollar corporations are relying on your filthy habit to make sure they continue spending millions to keep cannabis illegal, right? Tobacco companies want cannabis to stay illegal because part of the whole addiction is the oral fixation of having to put something in your mouth. And yeah, we all put stuff in our mouth that we're probably not too, that we're a little ashamed of.
Hey, speak for yourself, Dr. Mark.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, one thing is toxic and the other thing is not, right? And the other thing is much more addictive. I mean, do people get addicted to cannabis? I mean, they like the way cannabis makes them feel, and certainly at the end of the day, blow off a little steam, smoke a joint, take a bong hit, do a dab, do a couple rips on your vape pen, whatever. I mean, if that makes you feel good, and if that keeps you away from picking up and lighting a tobacco cigarette, I mean, all the better. I mean, we talked at High at 9 News, a previous story about the commingling of tobacco and hash. It's a traditional way of smoking hash over in places like Spain, where people, are just basically smoking
most of the world
spliffs or tobacco intermingled with cannabis. And yeah, I know it's a cultural thing, and our nation was founded by, tobacco and hemp farmers. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on this. I mean, what I'd like to think.
Well, but you do agree that there's a flaw. Like there's a flaw.
Smoking hemp and cannabis could be a replacement for tobacco smoke. So if someone just needs to light something and hold it up their mouth and draw and smoke, and if they do that with cannabis or hemp, that they're more likely going to not have cancer later on in life.
And I've had hemp cigarettes that were actually pretty tasty.
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty amazing. Dr. Mark, I want to push back a little bit. I mean, there's been a lot of recent research that, and you did say that 60 milligrams of nicotine can be fatal. Yeah. But there's been a lot of recent research that's come out in very respected journals that you really respect and love, that are saying that very small doses of nicotine can be good for you if regularly dosed in an appropriate consumption manner. And I mean, it's come through guys like Huberman and other people who have also been kind of promoting this possibility. I'm looking at a paper published in Psychology Today, one on the NIH right now. All within the last year.
What you're talking about is kind of like the equivalent of tobacco microdosing, right?
Right. Yeah, correct. Yes.
What's clearly been shown, I mean, there's no evidence that's been shown alternative, is that tobacco use in smoking tobacco is directly correlated with an increased risk in lung cancer.
100%.
There's a biological rationale to why that is. And when Donald Tashkin, I think Dr. T's talked about this guy a lot, the guy at UCLA who was basically tasked by the Nixon administration to show that smoking weed gives you cancer. And they found that smoking weed does not only give you cancer, it actually protects your lungs.
It reduces your risk of cancer.
Lung disease versus someone who doesn't smoke at all. I mean, that says a whole lot there. There's prophylactic effect that the molecules in cannabis, and even smoking cannabis also generates this stuff called tar, and that tar can have cancerous causing compounds in there. But the benefit of bringing in cannabis smoke into your lungs, into the very sensitive tissue that's responsible for pulmonary function is absolutely essential to being alive, because that's taking the CO2 from your blue blood and exchanging it with oxygen to turn your blood red, bring oxygen all over your body. So, like, I think you're right, Jesse. There could be some medicinal benefit to nicotine, but it ain't coming from smoking tobacco.
Right. Clearly smoking, we've covered this
tobacco products are fucking deadly. It says so right on the box of cigarettes.
Of course, they have to say that.
Will lead to lung cancer. That's it.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But there's other ways of microdosing nicotine and taking it
from cancer from smoking, and it wasn't their diet, and it wasn't anything else that they did. They smoked themselves and got cancer.
Right. That makes sense.
And even after my wife's aunt, she had one lung removed. Do you think that would actually be, the sign that, hey, maybe you should stop smoking? He'd still be smoking cigarettes.
Oh, dude, I had a family member who had a full-on emphysema and had a trach out of his neck, and he would still smoke through the trach.
Smoking, right?
He'd smoke through the trach, dude.
Yeah. Oh, there's that lady. There's that lady that did it on the anti-cigarette commercial. She used to like hold her cigarette up to here, and you know what I mean?
Like that. Yeah.
Hopefully she's not next to an oxygen.
He would hold it and seal it with his hand, and then suck through it. I was like, dude, that's nuts.
That oxygen tank would blow the fuck up if it ever saw flames.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
they risk that. They don't care.
They don't care.
They're so crazy.
They're already living on the edge already at that point. But on that,
well, Dr. Mark, there's other things too, and we've gone a little long. Sorry, Jason, but
no, it's all good.
Most cigarettes are also adulterated, right? With a lot of chemicals and a lot of additional addictive substances that make them even more
radioactive
addictive.
Shit in there. There's all kinds of stuff.
So like the cigarette companies figured out a long time ago how to make them as addictive as possible.
Right.
And so there's nuance there, because I don't know that we have like a real correct study of like, if you had organic homegrown tobacco and you smoked that once in a while, would it be that addictive?
Right.
We don't really know because cigarette companies would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
probably not. And
probably not.
Without the radon sprayed on it, without all the other crap sprayed on it. Yeah.
So that's the other thing is we have these companies. And by the way, one last tag is that those same tobacco companies, Philip Morris, etc., are the ones who own major portions of our food industry. So those same addictive forming companies that want you addicted to everything, they own the food too.
And
Altria, which used to be Philip Morris, Altria has acquired Kraft Foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Kraft
exactly.
Foods, like Kraft macaroni and cheese and all that shit. The fucking tobacco company.
But they didn't acquire.
so-
They did not acquire the New England Patriots, though. That was just owned by Robert Kraft. Just saying.
I think that's a different Kraft.
No, that's the same
Different
Kraft.
Kraft.
That's the same Kraft.
But it is.
Yep, he is the Kraft of Kraft Foods.
Yeah, so there's a lot there because it's just that these companies have studied how to make things as addictive as possible so that they can make the most money that they possibly can, and you can't get away from them. And that's I mean, if there's evil in the world, that's it.
Yeah, and on that, we are going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Yes, and we are back. And man, I have a very interesting study, especially for anyone in Southern California today, because UCLA, University of California of Los Angeles, is recruiting participants for 4 marijuana studies and offering up to $1,725 in compensation. You guys can get paid for this. That's right. UCLA's Center for Cannabis and Cannabinoids is seeking volunteers for 4 clinical studies that will test how compounds in marijuana affect mood, pain, appetite, and overall health. Participants can earn between $399 and $1,725. The CanSec study will look at how cannabis influences mood and pain, and healthy adults ages 21 to 65 who use marijuana but do not experience chronic pain are eligible. It requires 1 to 3 screening visits and 3 full-day smoking sessions in the lab. Compensation is up to $399. The terpene study will examine how THC and terpenes interact and influence mood and pain, and the study involves 1 to 3 screening visits and 15 full-day vaporizing sessions with participants able to earn up to $1,725.
Wow.
The S-Tacofus S-TACOFS study will test how cannabis chemicals can be detected in blood and saliva and how they affect mood and impairment. Adults ages 21 to 65 who use marijuana infrequently are eligible, and the study includes 1 to 3 screening visits and 4 full-day smoking sessions with compensation up to $500. The CBG study will focus on how THC and cannabidiol will impact mood, pain, and appetite. Volunteers must be between 21 and 65 and regular cannabis users and pain-free. The study requires 2 screening visits and 9 full-day vaporizing sessions, paying up to $1,000, you guys. All 4 studies require in-person participation at UCLA's Cannabis and Cannabinoid Laboratory. I wonder if they have comfortable chairs there. Those interested can complete a pre-screening survey through the university's website by clicking on the link. And man, oh man, look at this, bro. You guys could be getting paid in the lab at UCLA to consume cannabis. How freaking awesome is this? I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Dr. Mark, I bet you wish you were in LA, huh?
Oh, no, I think it's great. There's cannabis research that's going on in LA. There's at UCLA. There's several researchers who are looking at different pharmacological aspects of cannabis, and there's a couple of researchers in the chemistry department who are looking at it. No, I love it. I think the more research that we have on actually consuming cannabis and how that affects people, the more we could know about, driver impairment, for number one. I mean, I don't know, again, if they'd ever come up with a roadside test for
they have.
driver
It's called common sense, Dr. Mark. It's called common sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, assessing impairment should be agnostic to
it should be common sense.
Person,
it should be common
Whether
sense.
it's an opiate or cocaine.
That's what I'm saying.
Marijuana.
It's fairly obvious if someone is intoxicated. It's not hard to tell.
Right.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist
to prove.
Yeah.
And not with body
Obviously,
cams.
Blood alcohol content, you could prove that someone had a blood alcohol content, and there's been such robust studies to know.
I get all that, but you got the body cam footage. Yeah. It's very easy to show someone's impairment. You show the jury that video, they're going to be like, that person's effed up. Easy peasy, done, lemon squeezy, conviction, boom. Throw the book at them. Not hard, not difficult.
That's different, though.
Not really.
That has nothing to do with cannabis.
It does. It's impairment.
Yeah, but how do you prove that with cannabis or not prove that?
My point is impairment, regardless if it is from one substance or another substance. Impairment is impairment.
Yeah. I mean, you can't... I've never seen anybody not able to walk because of weed, but I have seen people's reaction times.
And this is another reason why I say that it is totally BS, ridiculousness. But
well, that's not totally true, because some people, I mean, as we've talked about, the first time someone smokes weed, they're definitely going to be impaired almost universally, not able, impaired way beyond the capability of driving, very unsafe to be behind the wheel. Whereas somebody who's smoked weed for 10 years and smokes weed every day, they're not impaired at all. So there's no way to prove that based on how much cannabis is in your system. I think these studies are really cool. If I was in LA, I'd be headed right down there, because it sounds like if you signed up for all 4 of the studies, you could make upwards of like $3,000 just for smoking.
I don't think you would qualify. I think you could qualify for 3, but not the total 4, because one of them is asking for a moderate smoker as opposed to someone that consumes every day.
One of them is asking for what? You broke up.
A moderate smoker, like moderate consumers, like you don't consume every day. So there's a differentiator in that one. So you could probably get 3.
2 of them are for pain.
Yeah, you could get 3. You could get 3 out of 4.
Well, still, one of them's up to $1,000. One of them is $1,725. That right there is almost $3,000, and then another $399 to push you over. I'm really interested.
Weed with that.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, that's like half a month's rent in LA, so you better get to it.
Well, there you go, right? Yeah.
The one that sounds really interesting to me is the STACOFS, where they're studying impairment.
They should call it the FAFO.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that there's taco in there, but because they're going to smoke that much weed, they're definitely going to want a taco. But yeah, studying impairment on that level with that much cannabis use, that sounds like a pretty interesting study. I hope they really do a good job, and that they do their double-blind placebo and all that really well, so they can figure out what impairment is really happening, and if at all. And I hope they also are knowledgeable of the spectrum of someone who has never smoked weed or has smoked it only once versus someone who smokes every day and has smoked for 10 years. Like, it's just very different. And then also, not to mention, everybody's endocannabinoid system is different, period. So even amongst that spectrum of people, then there's another spectrum. Some people, even after 10 years, they still get really, really high and it shouldn't drive. I think that's rare, but I think it does happen.
Fair enough. Well, Dr. Mark, just give the guy an A, Dr. Mark. Just give him an A, okay? He'll be A-okay. All right.
Yeah. That's it. You're going to get an A.
Yeah.
A plus for the I9 crew.
Just give him an A, bro. Just give him an A. He looks like a smart kid. Yeah. Yes. Well, you guys, I have one final story for you guys, and I think you're going to find this very, very interesting, Dr. Mark, because it's another study. Because cannabinoids, especially CBD with THC, offer effective relief for migraines, a study finds. Look at that. Researchers from the Federal University of Parana, Einstein Hospital, Australia, in Isopec Laboratories in Fort Lauderdale have published new findings that detail the potential of cannabinoids in treating both episodic and chronic migraines. Imagine chronic being good for chronic. Look at that. Using animal models, the team tested different cannabinoid compounds, including cannabidiol, CBD, cannabigerol, CBG, and low-dose tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, to examine their impact on migraine-related pain and light sensitivity. Their findings were published this week by the Journal of Scialdone. Never heard of that, but the study found that CBD alone, as well as combinations of CBD and THC or CBG, reduced migraine-related symptoms triggered by calcitonin gene-related peptide, better known as CGRP, and pituitary adenylate cyclase activating polypeptide, better known as PACAP, two potent migraine inducers. According to the abstract, parabolitol mechanical allodyna induced by CGRP was significantly reduced by CBD alone and combined with THC or CBG. CBD and THC was the most effective treatment in this condition since it presented the longer effect, up to 3 hours, and was the only treatment capable of reducing late photosensitivity associated with CGRP. The results also indicated that CBD and THC provided the most consistent relief in chronic migraine models, suppressing pain development up to 13 days and significantly reducing light sensitivity for several hours. In contrast, CBD alone was particularly effective at reducing pain across multiple days, though its effects on photosensitivity were shorter. Importantly, none of the cannabinoid treatments were associated with sedation or anxiety-like effects. The conclusion of the study emphasized the therapeutic potential of cannabinoids, stating that CBD attenuated pre-iboidiol mechanical alliandria, while CBD and THC suppressed the development of ibotrol and allodynia and photosensitivity in the chronic migraine model induced by NGT. None of the compounds were associated with sedative or anxiety-like effects, and altogether, these results suggest that cannabinoid compounds may represent safe and effective alternatives for the treatment of episodic and chronic migraines. The findings provide further evidence that cannabinoids, particularly CBD and CBD-THC combinations, could be safe and effective treatment options for migraine sufferers. Well, I can't wait to see Tylenol laced CBD THC at a pharmacy near you, especially under Schedule 3, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Say goodbye-bye to Tylenol with codeine, because a new CBD THC is going to be coming on the market. What do y'all got to say about this? Dr. Mark?
Yeah. I mean, we've known this for a long time, right? This is just another confirmation.
Entourage effect?
Is this is there all of a sudden, Dr. Mark, is basically Tylenol with CBD and THC gonna take out other Tylenol products off the shelf, especially when it goes to Schedule 3?
No.
Why not? Why wouldn't it?
I don't think so. I think it could supplement those, but I think like
I think Tylenol coating is going to be gone.
The analgesic properties of THCa are greater than that of THC, so you'd want to have the acids in there.
Yeah.
But I think that so it's interesting that, like, you know, all this noise about Tylenol. Tylenol is I think we said this, right? On I News, I covered this. I think it was on Hash Church, I forget. But metabolized in the body into a cannabinoid-like molecule called AM404. AM404 is named after Alexander Macrianus, who's the molecular pharmacologist at Northeastern University that's been doing cannabinoid research for quite some time now. They're the people who co-crystallized inhibitors in the CB1 active site. So, yeah, I mean, the biochemical targets in the body that these things hit are just different. And I'm not sure that, you know, if you feel like a headache coming on and you normally take like a Tylenol, or, you know, you got that like neck headache from the stress of your day or stuff. I don't know that CBD and THC are going to be replacements for things like ibuprofen and acetaminophen.
I think it's going to be a collab, bro. I think it's going to be a collab. I'm telling you. Tylenol,
Dr. Mark,
THC, CBD.
do you think, though, that like a common, we've talked about this before, where there's this sort of product that's not been touched, which is I haven't seen really something common where people take raw acids, THCa, CBDA, combine it with CBG and CBD and THC and CBD. So there's this full spectrum of non-decarboxylated forms and decarboxylated forms. If you put them together, could they be powerful enough to actually compete against ibuprofen directly?
I don't know, because ibuprofen hits a different target altogether called COX-2, right? COX-2 is cyclooxygenase 2, which is down in the arachidonic acid pathway. And if COX-2 does its business, it generates compounds that elicit the inflammation that leads to ultimately headaches and, you know, muscle soreness, all that kind of crap. I don't know. I think there needs to be more research done,
right?
And I don't think it's a direct replacement.
Do you think there's potential there, though? I mean, it seems to me from just like looking at this stuff and hearing the anecdotes that there is potential there. Like there's a potential for the cannabis plant and using the raw and the decarboxylated forms together in the right, in the right ingestion mode or manner.
Yeah.
It could compete directly, possibly.
Well,
not that it's activating the
exact
exact same receptors, but that the result would be the same.
I mean, when you're treating like a headache, like migraine or something like that, that's the symptom, right? The symptom is a headache, right? Which is resulting from, you know, vasoconstriction, which basically is limiting blood flow and creates, you know, again, things that are what are called pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines. And so, yeah, does cannabis help control the release of that? It does. Right. But again, remember that the body's own, you know, immune system is being stimulated by something else. So something else is causing the effect that's creating that symptom. And what you're talking about is whether or not you could basically just, you know, dull the pain or not really treat the underlying cause, but treat the symptom. Yeah, there is something about managing those types of things, and certainly like any type of action that the cannabinoids do, which is help maintain homeostasis in the body, you would think would actually help. But again, there's a self-correcting mechanism in the body, which is that maybe, you know, the underlying cause here is the pain you're feeling is an indication that something else is wrong, right?
Sure.
So those pain signals, you could cut off those pain signals and now you won't feel the pain anymore. The pain is usually indicative that there's something else happening, right?
Right. But in an emergency situation where acetaminophen and ibuprofen are just absolutely destructive to your liver and other organs in your body, if cannabis could directly compete and provide that emergency pain relief, because sometimes it's just getting rid of.
In some cases, The answer is in some cases probably yes. We know the dose, and do we know like how prolonged that is? And again, treating the symptom versus treating the underlying cause. When that wears off, does it just come back and come back even worse? I don't know.
Right. This is where we need studies, right?
Yeah, a lot of that just because of the anecdotal information that's out there. I mean, maybe what causes the headache in general is stress. So if consuming cannabis lowers your stress, lowers your blood pressure, maybe that's going to help treat a stress-induced headache, but not all headaches are basically from stress. So in some cases, yes, in some cases, maybe not.
Right. There's a million reasons they can happen. It could happen from glyphosate poisoning from your
something
shitty,
like that, right?
Yeah, like there's a lot of things that could be causing it.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Gabriel. Great job driving today. His first day driving by himself behind the wheel. Great job. Somewhere in the metaverse. That's right. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.